Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Whenever you're seeing this, my name is Eric coming in from Columbia, South Carolina, and this is National Business Builders. So I'm currently broadcasting, I'm doing this again, guys. I'm broadcasting from broadcasting to, Facebook page, Facebook group, and my YouTube channel. So if you guys have not, if you're not following us on our Facebook page, it is National Business Builders. If you're not following us on our group, let me see what the group's name is because I don't want to get it wrong. Give me 1 second. Our YouTube obviously also is National Business Builders. We're still building our YouTube channel. We don't have enough people right now to make it a privatized channel with the privatized, title. However, we are broadcasting there. So we're broadcasting to our group. Our group is More Money, More Freedom. That's our group. So the group was actually on hold for a while we were building other businesses, and I'm back to share this information with you guys. So if you guys are just jumping on, do me a favor, drop your city and your state. Let me know you're tuning in from whenever you see this broadcast. Once again, my name is Eric coming in from Columbia, South Carolina, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why people struggle financially. So you see this video up here. It says, hey, Uncle Sam will pay you to run a home-based business. Don't worry about that. We'll get into that in a minute. But what I want to share with you is some facts about why some people struggle and continue to struggle financially. Why do people struggle financially? It's really, really simple, but it's really complicated at the same time. People struggle financially because many of us are taught to struggle. All right. Many of us are taught to struggle. And without going into too much detail, I want you to think about some of the times when you may have been little, you may have been small, and your parents had to make do with something. There's nothing wrong with making do with what you currently have. But when we incorporate that thing into a struggle, it begins to make it to where it is it's a mandatory or it's an accepted type thing. There's nothing wrong with making ends meet or making things connect. But when we find ourselves struggling and we're struggling on a regular basis, we're struggling on a continuous basis, it is a problem. Okay. And even though the struggle may be real, it does not have to be our reality. So many of us struggle because we are taught how to function through that struggle or in that struggle. And we're not taught on how not to struggle. That's why a lot of people still struggle financially. Another reason is there is no financial awareness. We are not literally taught, many of us are not taught the understanding behind finances, whatever that means and what it looks like. To some people, finances is credit. To some people, finances is debt. But to everybody, all of that is comprised of our finances, to include the decisions that we make as far as being, as far as the concern with our finances. So we're not taught about financial awareness. We're basically taught to go to school, make good grades, and get a good job. I mean, you may not like that scenario, but you got to agree that that's what most of us were taught. We got to go to school, get good grades. And when we get good grades, we'll get a degree. And that degree will give us a position where we want to be in life. The problem is there's no financial understanding. Many of us were not taught how to maintain or manage the money that we earned from that good job that we got. That being said, we get on this struggle bus. We get on the struggle bus and it's hard to get off. And I'm going to tell you something, man. People are not going to just stop and get off the struggle bus. The struggle bus don't just ride up and down the street. It don't just ride up and down the road. I know for a fact that the struggle bus has stops. It has stops in between because it has to pick people up to get on the struggle bus. So it just as it stops to pick people up, it can stop so you can get off. But many people are not going to get off that bus just by saying, hey, you're struggling. There has to be a reason why to get off the bus. And sometimes struggling is not a big enough reason for people to get off their struggle bus. I'm just saying. So no financial understanding. No understanding about the tax system. Remember, if you're working a job, you're getting taxed. And a lot of people don't understand how the tax system works. So a lot of that financial understanding falls into understanding how the tax system works. And that's really key because if you can understand how a system works, you can better, I don't want to say manipulate the system, but you can have better leverage um, with that system. Most people don't understand taxes and taxation. Therefore, when they get a job, they end up overpaying taxes. And a lot of people don't know that taxes are our biggest expense. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. No understanding of debt management. No understanding of debt management. What's that mean? We get a little bit of money. Maybe we get a pay raise. Maybe we get a promotion. And now we feel like we can actually afford certain things. But we have to understand that there's a difference. And many of us don't have that understanding of debt management. Just because we have more doesn't mean we have to spend more. That kind of goes along the lines of spending below your means, but that's not going to be the only thing that helps you out. And then, just financial management skills in general is a reason why a lot of people are on that struggle bus. Now, another reason why people are on the struggle bus that I'm noticing is that they only have one source of income. And I'm not talking about multiple jobs right now. I'm talking about they have a job and that's all. They're totally dependent. They're totally dependent upon that job. If that job was to go away, or if that job was to push them away, then they're going to be in trouble. So you hear people all the time talking about multiple streams of income, yada, 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 and that's great, but you still have to understand what that means and how to actually accomplish and acquire those multiple streams of income. So having one source of money coming in is going to be a huge issue, and that's going to cause a lot of issues with struggling, especially if you are one income family. And the last thing is people really don't understand investing. I mean, think about it. If you're watching this video and you have had a bout with somebody trying to explain to you how to invest in the stock market, or how to even, if nothing else, how to invest your 401k. There's not a lot of people who understand investing, and because they don't, they end up working until a time that they don't want to work. So that is some of the reasons why people struggle, and a lot of people don't know they're struggling. The struggle has been so relatable. The struggle has been so relatable until people are just comfortable struggling. They're comfortable in their own struggle. Once again, when given solutions and when given the opportunity not to struggle, many people will not take that choice or make that choice not to struggle. And it's because of conditioning. Choosing not to struggle means changing the way that you do things. I'll say that again. Choosing not to struggle, it means changing the way that you do things. Meaning that if you are excessively or if you are an excessive spender, if you eat out a lot, choosing not to struggle may mean that you don't eat out as much. If you like to drink, if you like to smoke, if you like to party, it means that you can't do those things as much or as often. That's a lifestyle change. So it's not a monetary decision when people say, hey, you got to do certain things, you want to change, you got to stop struggling, you want to change this stuff. It's not that. It is a decision of, I don't want to change or stop what I'm doing. Okay. But the great thing about it is there are some solutions. And there are some solutions that are going to make sense to you. You see, Uncle Sam will pay you to run a home-based business. You're probably saying, well, what does that have to do with me struggling? Well, the last thing you want to do is to not understand how not to struggle. You want to learn how not to struggle. And one of the biggest things that you have to understand is that our expenses are sometimes overridden by one of the things that we don't know. That's our biggest expense, and that's taxes. Taxes are our biggest and our number one expense. You may think that it's your mortgage. You may think that it's your spouse. You may think it's your car note, your rent. But it is taxes, because when those things are gone and you don't have those things to pay, then you still have to pay those taxes. So a home-based business will help you to lower your taxes. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go ahead and share this with you. Hopefully somebody finds some value in this and we can actually move forward and try to educate some people on how not to struggle. So this is what the Social Security Administration says about retirement. It says that out of every 100 people to reach the age 65, 36 of them pass away before they're able to draw their benefits. 54 of them are still working, still end up living in a rest home, or they end up living with a loved one. They're dependent upon somebody else. This is after somebody has worked their entire life. 5 of them are still working a full-time job. You've seen older people out there working full-time jobs. 4 of them are financially stable, but only 1 of them is financially free. Just 1. Only 1's financially free. Now, we can change those numbers with these strategies that I'm about to share with you. However, before you can change your situation, you have to change the way you think about your situation, and that's going to be important. The struggle is real for those who are struggling. The studies show that 80% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. They're working a job. That means that money is not their problem. Cash flow is. So 80% of people who work a job are living paycheck to paycheck. And for them, the struggle is real. However, everyone faces the same 5 financial challenges. So whether they make 3 figures, 4 figures, 5 or 8 figures a year, it doesn't matter. They're still going to face the same financial challenges. Why we go to work? That's a good question. Why do we go to work? Well, whether we know it or not, everyone has 2 reasons why they go to work at a job or whether they work their business. The first reason is we have to provide enough money for our current lifestyles. That means that got a roof over our head, the lights, food, clothes, transportation, those basic necessities that we need to get back and forth and live. We need to make enough money to be able to do that. On the other side of it is, one day we're going to not want to go to work. We're not going to be able to go to work, or the job that we may currently be working may say, hey, you know what? We can no longer use you. We're going to bring in a newer model and we got to trade you in. As a matter of fact, we got to sit you down. When that happens, before that happens, you have to make sure that you have enough money for retirement. Now, a lot of people are meeting their day-to-day needs, but not a lot of people are meeting their future needs. Once again, we all face the same financial challenges. The same financial challenges. Doesn't matter what tax bracket you're in, how much money you make, we all face the same financial challenges. Nobody is different when it comes to that. The only thing that's different is the way that we look at these things. Now, I want you to imagine understanding how money works. This is not a dig on anybody, but I want you to think about this. Learning and understanding how money works is going to position you to not have to, you're still going to have to face these challenges, but you're not going to have to struggle. So one of these struggles or one of these challenges are inflation. Inflation doubles every 20 years on average. But in 2022, we saw inflation go up to 8.7% in a couple of months. And a lot of people didn't know how to handle it. It was crazy, right? So that is something that, it took food up, it took gas up, took clothing up. Because inflation was so high, people had to adjust and didn't know how to adjust. The second challenge is high taxes. And these are just numbers, estimations. But imagine high taxes taking anywhere between 25 to 30% of your income, up to 1/3 of your income. That's taxes on your vehicle, taxes on your food, your clothes, your mortgage, pretty much everything. There's 97 different taxes out there. And when you have to pay these taxes, it's something different because you can't register your vehicle without paying your taxes. So a lot of people don't understand these things, and because we don't understand them, we just kind of go with the flow. We just say, hey, you know what? It is what it is, and this is what it's going to be. But it doesn't have to be like that. The third thing that people face is debt. High debt is brought on by high taxes. And on average, people are losing anywhere between 25 to 30% to their cash servicing debt. That's brought on by high taxes. That's another 1/3. Imagine this. Imagine how much more money you would have if you weren't in debt because you didn't have to overpay taxes. To break it down even more, imagine you wanting to go to school or your child wanting to go to school. And for whatever reason, you could not afford that. Okay? You couldn't afford that. And because you couldn't afford it, what happens is you have to go into debt. Got to go into debt. While everybody is going into debt, while everybody is struggling, what's going on now is you now have an issue because you now have put yourself in a position to where you just lost more money. High taxes. If you didn't have to pay those high taxes, most likely you would have more money. And if you had more money, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. Okay. So the fourth thing is poor credit. Now, when we talk about personal finances, mostly everybody who is concerned about anything, it's going to be their credit. You cannot you cannot have a conversation with somebody about money unless you're talking about either debt or credit. And people honestly think that that's the majority of their finances. Now, that may be the majority of where their finances are going, but that's not just what finances are about. But regardless, when people get into debt, credit score goes down, especially revolving debt. So when you're talking about credit card debt, 100 million people have poor credit in this country. You got to think about it. How can you improve that if you're constantly in debt? So that's the issue. All right. And then the last challenge is big business. There's a holiday in every month of the year. And the government, the financial institutions, and big business have gotten together to figure out how they can sip some of your money away. We make emotional decisions, and big business takes the final 1/3 of our money. We make a lot of emotional spending. We make a lot of emotional decisions. And there's nothing wrong with treating yourself. There's nothing wrong with celebrating. But there's a holiday in every month of the year. And if you think about it, when we go through fighting or combating inflation, when we go through having to pay high taxes and we have to, make that money up, and then we make that money up by getting into debt. And because we got into debt, we got bad credit. All we can do now is kind of, lick our wounds. That's all we can really do is lick our wounds, and we're going to buy something to make ourselves feel a little bit better, And that's where big business comes in. So those are the challenges that everybody faces. The solutions are very simple, though. Before you can actually get more money, because people say, hey, you know what? If I just had more money, I would be okay. As a matter of fact, how many people believe that if they had more money, that everything would be okay? I'm sure a lot of people do think that. But if you don't have the financial strategies, and if you're not able to apply the financial principles to your finances, having more money is not going to help you out. Money management is the key, though. Most people believe in budgeting. They say, hey, I'm just going to spend less and cut back. Matter of fact, there's a lot of famous financial strategists that talk about budgeting. They talk about getting out of debt. They talking about not living above your means. But people who believe that, they think that they just need more income. And they are right. But they don't just need more income. They also need more cash flow, more money left over after all of their expenses are paid. See, most people are cash flow negative. And if they're not cash flow negative and they're cash flow even, in a minute, they're going to be cash flow negative. And the reason why is because the taxes, the debt, the poor money-making decisions, or the money spending decisions, excuse me. So you got to think about it. Financial management is something that's going to allow us to take get a better handle on our money and a better control. So the first thing you want to do to manage your finances is if you have a job, the first thing you want to do is you want to consider correcting your W-4. So for those of you who don't know what the W-4 is, a lot of people get the term W-4 and W-2 confused. W-4 is a form that you fill out when you tell your employer how much money to take out your check and taxes. You're telling your employer how much money to take out, not the other way around. The IRS says that 80% of Americans have their form filled out incorrectly, and that causes them to overpay taxes and lose hundreds of dollars a month, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even over hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Now, 80% of people have their W-4s filled out incorrectly, and 80% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. You see the correlation? So now, once you learn how to correctly fill out the W-4, you can now shift money back into your household, okay? Now you want to start minimizing unnecessary expenses. That's going to also increase your cash flow. If you're working, 10, 12, 14-hour days, why do you need cable? I'm not telling you not to use it, but if you're not at home, who's watching your cable? And if you say, well, my dog is watching it, that's cool, but, that's not practical. So let's take a look at some of the things that we can cut back on. Maybe we can cut back on eating out as much. Maybe we can just do a little less of what we normally do so we can increase our cash flow. Once again, cash flow is the amount of money that you have left over after all of your expenses are paid. So if we can save on taxes and save on minimizing our expenses, we just increased our cash flow. Now, debt management is another important factor in managing our finances. Debt management leads to debt freedom. I know lots of people who want to get out of debt. However, the problem is most people don't understand that in order to get out of debt, you have to create more money. You cannot get out of debt with the same money and also the same habits that got you into debt. So this is a bit of a discipline that a lot of people don't want to implement. And I want you to think about this. I want you to really think about this. It's not a decision of whether it's not a decision of whether I want to pay somebody or hire somebody to help me to get out of the situation. It's a simple question of, do I want to, or am I ready to get out of this situation? Because most people are not ready to make that shift and make that change. Okay. But debt management is another way, because now if you can minimize your taxes, minimize your expenses, you now have money to get out of debt faster. Oh yeah. So now the last one is credit. And we talked about credit as far as, credit being a problem because of debt. But better credit is going to be important, because with better credit and better credit education, you can learn how to rebuild, you can learn how to maintain and repair your credit. You can stop paying those high interest rates. You can go back and renegotiate interest rates because you now have better credit. And the lower your interest rates, of course, guess what? The more money you're going to save. So money management is the first solution. Okay, that's the first solution. The next thing is how we get our money, how we earn our money matters. How we actually earn our money matters. It does. So most people don't understand that if you work a job, you are taxed at the highest rate. You're taxed at the highest rate. Okay. And also you get paid last. Probably saying, what are you talking about, Eric? I get my check. No. When you are taxed as a W-2 employee, you're going to work, you're going to get taxed, and then you get paid what's left over. However, as a business owner, Your business is taxed at a lower rate. And now the business is going to work. The business is going to pay all their expenses, or all its expenses, and then the business is going to get taxed on their remainder of the income. That's a strategy. That's a strategy. So the question you got to ask yourself is, would you rather be taxed at the highest rate or at a lower rate? And then of course, you learn how to invest, you learn how to put your money to work for you, because if you're only working for your money, that's not going to be good. You're not going to be able to just work for your money and make a life for yourself. But we're talking about different strategies, and we're talking about the reason why people struggle, and they struggle and they stay on the struggle bus. They stay on the struggle bus because it's comfortable. But they can get off the struggle bus at any time. But it's a decision that has to be made with that person, that personality, and that mindset. They're not going to get off that struggle bus and stop struggling until they're ready. That's it. So now, if you're ready to get started, guys, for a limited time only, we're going to help you get started with a home-based business. That's going to position you to legally lower your taxes. You can legally lower your taxes, and you can start keeping more of your money. Setting up a debt elimination plan specific to you. Setting up a financial plan specific to you. Showing you how to minimize your expenses. And oh yes, by the way, like I said, you have a business now. So now you have access to more tax deductions that you can lower your taxes. It's only $9.95 for a limited time to get started. And then 30 days later, it's $34.95, which are both a write-off. Now, I know that most people are going to have $9.95. And I know that most people can find $34.95 a month, especially if they know it's going to be a write-off. So I don't think that's the problem. I think the real problem is people letting go of their struggle. People letting go of the thing that's holding them back so they can be great. That's one of the biggest things. So if you guys are interested and you're ready to shift and change your life and change the way that you think about some things, if you're ready to make that change, all you have to do is go to www.nationalbb.net. Once again, www.nationalbb.net. You can go there and you can actually check out a video. Okay. You can check that video out and it'll make sense to you. You can also get started right there. But it's not a $10 decision. This is a generational decision. So make sure you follow us on our YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on our Facebook page, and also join our Facebook group. And if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name is Eric. Like I always say, when you know better, that's when you have the ability to do better. And the only knowledge that's powerful is properly applied knowledge. Get off the struggle bus. Get off the struggle bus. I'll see y'all at the top because there's too many people struggling at the bottom. Peace.